So today we are going to cover routerLink and routing guard, but after the intro. Hi everyone, this is Subrat and you are watching Fun of Heuristic. So in the last video, I forgot to mention a very big thing, that is how to display a 404 screen, that is page not found. So if you go here, you can see that if the path is login or profile/user ID or profile/user ID login, it will throw an error because it will not find anything. We'll go ahead and check that. We'll go here and instead of login, we'll try to do something else. But what it does is it just throws an error. If you go to the console and check, it will say that this path is not there in the path matches. So here at this time, we need to show the user a 404 page, that page not found error. So for that, we can add a new path parameter here. So not a path parameter, so you can add a new router parameter here. So the path will be a double star, that means it's a wildcard. So it will check from the top, and if it doesn't found anything, then it will fall into this double star parameter, and then it will go to the path component. In that component, I just added in the template as a 404 page not found. If you keep this in the top, then it will override everything else. So keep that in your mind and code accordingly. So how the flow is, like the flow is from top to bottom. In most of the programming language is like that. So now if I goes to the next year started, yeah. If I go to the our app, and if I hit something, it will say page not found. So that's the 404 page, or you can see show your animation here also. That depends upon you. So we'll start from routerLink. As you can see here, we gave a routerLink, and that is navigating us to the login component. And what the work of a routerLink is, as you have done in HTML or other language, that when you're giving an anchor tag, you are giving a href in it, and that href is enable us to navigate to some other object or other index in the same page or other ID in the page. So this is the routerLink is kind of same thing. It will also navigate to the your respective routes, but with some extra parameters in it, extra power in it, as it Angular, so it has some power, right? So here what it's doing is, if you click the button, it will navigate us to the login component. Okay, so how it works is it does the same. To navigate us to login component, then the router get triggered, then it search the which path is matches, then it shows us the main component. So here it's the profile, as I given back to login. When I go ahead and click this will navigate us to the login component. That is another way to use a routerLink also. So you can go to login component.html. I wrote there. What I did is I passed the routerLink as a property binding here. If you don't know property binding, you can check my video. I will add it in the card. And here what it did is, it will ask the routerLink property set an array of parameters. So what it do, the 0th index will be the path where you want to navigate the user, and the rest are the parameters. So this is the 1 to 3 is the parameter. As you know from the previous video, if you go here, you have a user ID here, which is the path parameter of that. So when I will go when I click on this go to profile, what it will do, it will go to the profile, then in the parameter it will pass 1 to 3. If you want multiple parameters, suppose you have a profile, then you have some other ID, then you have some other ID, then it will do like profile slash 1 to 3 slash HSHD slash the according to the parameters user provided. So here the router link as a property you can use when you have a dynamic when you need a dynamic URL navigation. Suppose some user want to go to his profile and some other user want to go to some other profile according to their user ID. Here I am passing the path URL parameters 1 to 3, but here you can pass the variable name as well, which will generate dynamically, and you can navigate the user dynamically. You can face that user ID and process according to your need. But if you go to the profile component, here you can only send the user to a particular page. It's not changing dynamically like the like we are doing as a in a property, not in the directly we are using here, that in there we are using it as a property binding. So that's the benefit of that. So on click of this button, the router link will navigate us to profile with a URL parameter of 1 to 3. So what we did is we fetched that URL parameter and displaying it here with the interpolation. As you can see it here, we are fetching the user ID from the profile and we are fetching the user ID here from the URL parameter and we are displaying it on the page. If you don't know, you can check my previous video to know about that. So to show you is passing the parameter. If you go to the login component.html, if we write something here and hit save, and if I to go back to the login, and when I press this button go to profile, which is in the login component, that will navigate us to the respective 1 2 3 6 7, so that we have passed here. So this comes to end of a router link. Now we'll discuss about router guard. So what is a router guard? Router guard is a protection layer to the application. It's kind of so suppose you have an application which built in, and suppose you know that only your profile you can see, nobody else can't. So you have a profile setting page that only the logged in user can go to their profile. That in that you can prevent someone else to go to their profile by using router guard itself. So what you will do, you will say the router that I'm guarding you, that if the user is allowed to go inside, send them, else revert it back, or else whatever you want to show some pop-up and revert it back to the some other page, revert it back to the home page, or you want to log something, you want to check the attempt, if someone is doing very frequently, then you need to block that user. A lot of things can be there. So this comes under security, so you need to pay very attention while developing application. But if your application is unsecure, nobody going to use that. You may know it pretty well because everybody loves their privacy. So in router module we have mostly 3 guards, that is CanActivate, CanActivateChild and CanDeactivate. So what is CanActive? That I already explained you. That is that the user is allowed to go to the route or not. By implementing that, you can check. And CanActivateChild is user is allowed to go see the child of that route. So that means if you go here, so if in the profile user ID, if we add a CanActivateChild guard here and that return false and that fail, then the same user will not be allowed to go to the child of that. And CanDeactive is basically, you may see when you logged out, when you want to go out from a page, it will prompt you that you have some discard changes, you didn't save something, then you can go ahead and save that. So it's basically a pop-up. So it's not a security, It's not that you are restricting user to do something. You are just notifying user that you are leaving the place. If you want to leave, then you can, else finish your application, finish your thing what you are doing, then leave the place. We'll first go ahead and implement can deactivate, so because that we are used to it. So when in Facebook, if you are just wrote something and didn't save that and try to navigate to other pages, it will show us pop-up that you have unsaved changes. If you click OK, it will go, else it will be in the same pages. So here we'll first implement that, then we'll go to CanActive, then we'll go to CanActivateChild. So for the same thing, you can go ahead and insert a parameter that is called CanDeactivate. Then that will also same that will also receive the array of CanDeactivate guards. So here you can see we insert a CanDeactivate guard and pass a CanDeactivate guard service. In that we just created a service, and if you don't know what is service, you can check my video. I will link in the card here. So here what we are doing is we are implementing a CanDeactivate from the router module, and we are passing it profile component. So in the deactive guard, you need to pass that from where the user is want to leave or user is leaving, so you need to protect them. So we are doing that in the profile component. If the user is leaving, then run the thing, and you can see here we are adding to the profile component, adding it to profile component also. So here in CanDeactive guard, we implement a CanDeactive service with a profile, as I explained already, and that has a CanDeactivate method in it. So we need to override that, and in that we need to pass a component. The component is the same, obviously, for which we are using the CanDeactive guard. So what we are doing here is, if this is present, then we are calling the method, else we are returning true. So we'll go inside the method. So here in the CanDeactivate method, what I'm logging here is in the profile, and I'm asking user that when it click that need to be discarded or it not. So if you click OK, that everything will go away. So here in the real scenario, if you hitting a form, if you are making a form changes, you can check the state of the form, that this form is already saved in the server or not. Here you are not using the server, so in the every state you can check the state, and you can check that if the everything is not empty or everything is not filled or the data is not sent to the server, then you can run this and you can return the confirmation window. So here for us, for every time when you try to navigate out of the profile component, it will show us this thing. It will show us the discard changes as a pop-up, as a confirm window. So here when you try to hit the back to the login, as you can see in the profile component, we are trying to navigate back to the /login component. So that's /login. So when you click here, it will ask us the discard changes. So if we click OK, it will navigate us to login. If we click here and if we hit cancel, it will be stay on the same page. When the user comes to profile/user ID, it got triggered. So it got stored, and when the user want to leave that profile/user ID the path parameter, then this will get called. And as it implementing CanDeactivate interface that's from Angular router, and it's a generic, as I previously explained, it will get the CanDeactivate method get called. And to the CanDeactivate method, we are passing a component as a profile component. It will check that component has CanDeactivate method. If it has CanDeactivate method, the CanDeactivate method get called, else it will return true, so that user will able to get out of that. So inside that, what we are doing here, we are asking the user that do you want to leave or not. If here here if the user will press OK, then this will return true. If the user will press cancel, this will return false. If the user press OK and this will return true, then it will go to the CanDeactive guard and this whole return true, so that user can go out of that path. And if user press cancel, it will return false, and user and this again return false, and user can't go out of that path. We'll see this. So now we are in profile. So here if you want to go back to the login, that it will ask discard changes. So if we pressing OK, so that it's returning true, the user is allowed to go out. And if I am returning cancel, then user is returning false, so user is not allowed to go outside of that router. So for CanActivate, it's the same. So the CanActivate guard will pass here. So this guard also can accept a list of routing guards. So they told I already created that. So CanActivate service, so which is get implemented here. Then if you go inside, what we are doing is we are implementing a CanActive service from the Angular route, which has a CanActivate method, and that's a return boolean. So I am returning true or false. So here what I am doing is I am alerting the user that you are in profile page and returning the true. So every time it will return true. So it's a kind of all the user are allowed here. I will show you by returning false here. If I go here and save, so when I try to hit the go to profile, so what it does is you are in profile. Notice guys, the URL hasn't been changed yet, so the execution is stopped. The execution is stopped here. So this get called and this gets stopped here. When I press OK, then the execution, the code will go ahead and return true. And when it return true to the guard allowed the user to go inside the profile the service. So when I just notice the URL, when I will press OK, the URL will be changed. Yeah, the URL will change. The URL get changed. So I will show you again. So when I press login, it asked me you are in profile, and when I press OK, then it got changed. Here we'll try to make it false and try to check that when I'm hitting go to the profile, the same thing is prompting you are in profile, but check here when I'm pressing OK, the URL will not be changed because it's returning false. So as you saw that by returning true or false, it's behave accordingly and it's returning the value to the CanActivate module. So here it's mainly used for, if you go inside here, you can check the all the services. You can call a service, you can call your backend, you can call, you have using JWT token, you can authorize on basis of that. If you're using OAuth, all the things can be checked here, so that from the beginning, and you can prompt the user that you are not allowed inside in here. Like we are alerting here, you can check the condition according to, you can return true or false, and that will be get viewed to the user. So we saw that how CanActive router guard worked. Now we'll go ahead and see how the CanActiveChild router guard work. So here if we can go CanActiveChild router guard, that also same, that will also accept an array of router guard. And now I will explain what is CanActiveChild router guard is. So this router guard allowed a user that he is allowed to see the child or not. So suppose CanActive means that yeah, if the user is active, the user is allowed to see the profile page or user ID. Is he allowed to see the children or not? That guard we can provide in CanActiveChild guard. So we'll go ahead and make it true, so that every time the user is allowed, and we will comment this so it will not bother us for the development process. Okay, here, so in the CanActivateChild, as I told you already, so it will check the child, the user is allowed to visit the child or not. It will also need a active, so it will also need a service for that. So we'll go ahead and create a service for that, that ng g for generate, s for service, then CanActivateChild. That will get created. So we'll try to implement here. Now we'll go inside and write our guard. As you saw in the previous two guard, we need to implement the specific guard from the Angular route to make it work. So we go ahead and implement the CanActivateChild. So CanActivateChild from Angular router, and that need a CanActivateChild method, and that also need to be returned a boolean. So again we'll return true here. So this is the same like CanActive return true, and it will allow user to go inside the router, inside the route, that is for our case profiles as user ID. Here it's same. If that CanActivateChild is returning true, then the user is allowed to go inside the child of the profile / user ID. What we will do is we will go to the profile component.html. Here we'll make a button to navigate to its child. So we'll do one thing, we'll go to child. So this routerLink do is, if you don't hit place / if you're placing / login, then it will replace from the base href, and if you're not putting / login, it will just append whatever you are giving. For in our case is login, it will append to the existing URL. So here if you go and it's not back to child, it's to child. Okay, when we go ahead and hit to child, it will prompt us that inside a child, make a note guys, this URL hasn't changed yet. Okay, so when I press OK, this will get changed, so it will go back to the login. So if we go back to profile, it's again in profile. So now we'll go inside the child, and the same thing, we'll try to make it false. So we'll go again and check here. When we're hitting to child, it will prompting us inside a child, but make a note to the URL. The URL will not the URL is not changing here when I am pressing OK also, because I am always returning false. Like you saw in the active guard, CanActive, the same way CanActivateChild is also working. So that's how you can use the guard in the Angular, that is CanActive, CanActivate and CanActivateChild. So suppose you have in the CanActivate, you have 3-4 components. You need to go for authentication, you can go for authorization, you need to check some local storage, you can need to check some variable, then you can pass a multiple router guards and multiples. You can make a multiple service, make your own logic and put it, or you can put it in a single folder. Where using multiple is always preferable, that is because that is maintainable in the future, and this will be remain same for all the 3 guards. So today you saw that how we can use routerLink to navigate between pages and router guard for authentication and authorization to the user, that user is allowed or not allowed, or user is leaving without saving anything data. So that's it for today, and please feel free to comment down below if you have some doubt, suggestion, if you want to tell something to me, and please consider subscribing to the channel and like the video and share among your friends. We'll meet in the next video. Till that, stay happy. Bye bye.